So today we're going to do a chunky glitter tumbler, and I'm going to show you an easy way to put that chunky glitter on. The glitter that we're going to be using today, since it's October, we're going to use the Halloween chunky mix, so you can see what that looks like on a cup. Now this glitter is in my Etsy store, MCS Glitter Company. So if you need to buy glitter or would love to get this color, go to MCS Glitter Company on Etsy, and Mike will put that in the description also, or the comments down below. So I've got my cup already prepared, and since we're doing a kind of like an orange and purple, I went ahead and spray painted my cup orange, and I did go through and I prepared it, I sanded it, cleaned it, all that. So the other things you will need today are your epoxy. You got A and B, and I use Alumilite, and that is FDA approved. Remember, because your lips and mouth will be touching this stuff after it's been cured. You want to make sure it is FDA approved, so you can, if you're making plates or anything like that, and with the tumblers, you can eat off of it, drink out of it. You don't have to use a straw. So we've got the epoxy. Of course, we've got the glitter. You'll need a turner, a cup turner. I also have my Loctite adhesive spray, and we'll possibly have to use that. And then my clear spray. And I think that's it for, and you'll need gloves and you'll need a mask. So don't forget those, because you're working with epoxy, and remember, epoxy is toxic. I've also got my measuring cups here. They're just my medicine cups. And I'm going to go ahead and turn you guys down so you can see what I'm doing. So, of course, what I do first, because remember, I can't see those lines, I go ahead and mark the lines so I can fill the cup, or put the epoxy into that line. So I'm getting those equal parts and making sure I do. So we've got the A, and I'm going to do 15 mils. That's going to give me enough to put the glitter on one cup, and then I've also got another prepared cup that I have already glittered, so you guys can see how I coat that that chunky glitter with the epoxy. Sorry about the dog noise in the background. They always get very upset when we're in here in the shack and people walk in front of the house. So I'm just going to add this part A and part B to this bowl here. And remember, you want to scrape as much as you can out of those measuring cups. Make sure you're getting all of it so it's equal parts. If it's not equal parts, it's not going to set up. If it doesn't set up, it never will. And you cannot have uncured epoxy under cured epoxy, because those fumes and those toxins are going to seep through what's cured. So if your epoxy doesn't cure up, you need to scrap it and redo it. So I'm just stirring right now. Now with chunky glitter, If you remember right, I told you when you're doing the fine glitter, you want a very thin coat because you don't want that glitter to set in and the epoxy to take over it to start. But with chunky glitter, you're going to put the epoxy on a little bit thicker. Because the glitter is chunky, you do kind of want it to set in there, okay? So I'm going to do this a little bit differently. And I'm just going to pour this on. And then move it around my whole cup. And you can see it's on there pretty thick. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and put the glitter on. And you see I've got that coated really well. Okay? So you just put it on like you do any fine glitter. You make sure you're coating it. Now this is a mix. And you can see how that glitter is just like setting into that epoxy. I think that chunky glitter is a little bit more messier because those chunks kind of go all over the place.
B has a great question.
Yeah.
She would like to know, how do you know what to price your cups? I've been selling mine for $30 just to get them out there so people can see my work, but I know they should be priced higher.
Yeah, you know, when I first did mine, now what size is that for? That $30 cup, what size are you getting, B?
And B also says chunky glitter is the devil.
Yes, it is, I agree. But it's so darn pretty.
And we've got Cindy has been selling hers for $20.
Oh, Cindy. No, 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 no. That is too cheap. You know, you guys really need to get paid for what you put into these. All right? You guys don't cut yourself short. You feel like, oh, you know, if I charge too much, people aren't going to buy them. That's not true. They're buying it because it is handmade. They don't want something, they're not looking for something that they can just go into Walmart for. They're looking for something unique. So really start charging what it's worth. And that's going to pay for your supplies. It's going to pay for your time, all that. Okay, so next you want to kind of press, but don't like squeeze, okay? So what I do is I just take 2 fingers and kind of just press it down. And that just helps make it lay down flat. Now you will have some, and I'll show you, that are over the lip of the cup there. Don't worry about those right now. Because when it's time to clean up your cup, you're just going to cut those off with a hot knife. And like I said, I'm just taking my finger and lightly pressing down. All right, and now you see how flat that is. That's pretty flat. And like I said, there will be a couple that are sticking up, but that's okay, as long as the majority of them are flat, okay? So once you've got your glitter on, everybody, you're gonna let it set for about 6 hours to cure and dry on there. In about 3 hours, You can, if you want, go ahead and spray it. I just wait until about the 5th hour and I spray it then, and then let it sit for another hour. And then, so I clear spray it with this matte clear. That just helps lock in that glitter a little bit more.
Victoria would like to know, is there any harm in letting it sit longer than 6 hours before spraying?
Nope, no harm at all. Just make sure that clear spray is dry before you go to put that epoxy on. Sometimes, honestly, I'll do a cup and I'll let it set overnight. Because I've done it so late, and then I'll spray it in the morning, like before breakfast, and then after breakfast, I'll go ahead and put the epoxy on it. So no, you can let it sit for a week. It's not going to matter any. All right, so now we've still got some of that epoxy left. And I'm going to go ahead and start putting it on. Now, this you're going to put on pretty thick. And I have sprayed this cup already. Oh, one thing I did want to tell you. Before you start putting on your epoxy, and before you spray your cup, and after, you know, it's been drying for 6 hours, you want to check and make sure you don't have any holes. Sometimes this chunky glitter does not adhere well, no matter what you're using. Epoxy, the tack it method, anything like that. So make sure you are going through. If you see holes, all you have to do is take your Loctite adhesive, spray where that area is, and then drizzle on some glitter there. And no more hole. And then remember, that doesn't ask for any drying time, because that will always be tacky, because it is spray adhesive. And then you can spray it and then wait. I always wait at least 30 minutes, usually longer, to start epoxying. All right, so now I have gone and put on that first coat of epoxy. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn on my turner. Remember, I don't like to turn it on while I'm first pouring that epoxy, because I always feel like I'm chasing and I miss spots where, you know, the epoxy didn't get.
Trinica would like to know, would you suggest using a finer glitter of the same color as a base layer to help with the coverage?
Okay, so in my glitters, there is a very fine glitter in it already in the mix. So it's not just chunky you're getting a fine base color also. And that's in all my mixes. So it helps with that coverage. If I didn't have that in there, yeah, I'd have more holes. So I don't have as many as I would if I didn't have that fine glitter in there mixed already. Good question, Trinica. So on the bottom here, I always make sure that I don't have a bunch of epoxy at the very bottom, but it is covered really good. The reason for that is that as it dries, if you have like a lot of epoxy at the bottom, you could get like an uneven surface. Sorry. And so I just kind of make sure, you know, it's covered really good, but there's not going to be like a big glob as it starts drying. And then I just do it like I do any other glitter. I go top or bottom to top and then top to bottom, and that's just a preference of mine. And I'm not pressing very hard, I'm just skimming over it, and then that ensures me that I have plenty of coverage. And so there you go, that's what it looks like after you get the epoxy on. Remember, this is in, and all my glitters that are chunky, remember they have the fine glitter mixed into it. You can get them at MCS Glitter Company.
Terry would like to know how much thicker is the epoxy for the chunky than the fine?
It's pretty thick. It's not like to where it's dripping, but or you know, can move a lot, but it does move a little bit. I hope I explained that okay. So you don't want the epoxy dripping, but you want it to be and move, but you want it thick. So I would say for like the 12 ounce, I used about 3-4 mils. And if it starts to drip, you know, like when how I put it on, and you know, I was holding it, if it was starting to drip off your cup, you've got too much on. So that's a good way to be able to tell if you have too much, is if it starts dripping off your cup while you're trying to put it on. So just take some off, but yeah, just enough to make sure it's thick and not dripping. I want to thank all of you for joining me today and supporting me and supporting my private group. Remember, go over there, join. It is private group. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. Have fun crafting, and I love you all. Bye.